Welcome to the Alignment Blueprint. I'm your host, Callie. I'm a holistic life and business strategist. I also happen to be extremely passionate about holistic healing and growth. With over 13 years of experience, I've worked with clients from all walks of life. I also know living an authentically aligned life in business and in health can be a little overwhelming. I'm here to break it down for you and take you on my journey to authentic alignment. Remember, the materials and content within this podcast are intended as general information only and are not to be considered a substitute for medical advice or treatment. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Alignment Blueprint. I am here today with Theis. This is really, and I didn't tell her I was going to say this because it just kind of got downloaded, cool for me to talk with her today because we have a bit of similar journeys in some aspects, as well as we're from the same hometown. We danced, I don't know if you remember this, but we danced at the same dance studio. Like, I've known her my whole life, and she has the same name as me. It's just spelled differently, which is so funny because I actually just put that together, that we have the same name. So I'm really excited to chat with you today about your journey and where you came from and where you're at now. But how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm really good. It's a good day. I'm not, I won't talk about myself the whole time, but I'm a little griefy today. Like, it just comes in waves with losing my dad almost a year ago. And I had a really great dinner last night and we started talking about our dads because the woman I was having dinner with, her dad passed away when she was young too, younger than me. And I'm just having the after effects of grief today, but I still feel really good.
Good.
So it's a nice little, like, just feeling all the feelings kind of thing and being okay with where you're at.
Right.
So I always ask my guests to introduce themselves because I feel like it comes from the guest better than coming from me because you obviously know yourself way better than I know you, although I'm going to get to know you a lot better today. So can you tell me a little bit about you? If you want to tell me about your journey, what you do, anything that comes up, just let me know.
Sure. So I first want to add, I do remember you from our childhood because I feel like so for anyone who doesn't know, Callie and I went to neighboring schools. So we're from like the same area, but we did not go to the same school. And Callie, at least growing up, was a very unique name. I did
Yes.
not know many Callies. I actually didn't know any Callies, but every single person I met from your school was, do you know Callie Tony? Like as soon as I would say my name, they wanted to know if I knew you. And I was like, well, kind of. So it's almost like I knew you because everyone else felt I should know you because we had the same name.
Yes.
Yeah, so I find it funny that you remember that too. So my name is Dr. Callie Theis. I'm a board certified pediatrician. Like Callie said, grew up in Southwest PA, kind of traveled all over for my medical training, took me down to Virginia, took me to Kentucky, and eventually wound myself back up here because I think, all roads lead to home sometimes. In 2020, after I graduated from my medical training, at the time I was married to my high school sweetheart. We wanted to move back home to potentially start a family. But as we all know, the universe sometimes has plans for us that we don't anticipate. In 2020, I filed for divorce for many reasons, and we can get into that if you'd like to. But I started my first big girl job after training at the age of 30, the same year that I filed for divorce in the middle of a pandemic, which was a whole lot of fun. And I found myself drinking myself into oblivion. Alcohol was my coping mechanism at that time. And so flash forward 5 years later, I now have a new job. Still working near my hometown. I work for a small private hospital system, of which I am the only pediatrician who works for that system here in the area, and I help cover the newborn nursery at the hospital, which is a lot of fun. I am engaged to be married to a wonderful man who I actually did go to high school with, and that's how we originally met, which is funny because I said I was never gonna, stay here, and here I am. He has two wonderful daughters that we are actively involved in caring for the older one. And we are planning our wedding, which is coming very quickly as I transition into this new job. My sobriety journey started back on June 9th, 2024. So I am a little over 7 months sober now. After, my downward spiral that started in 2020, it took me about 4 years to really get get going with that. And I'm at a point where I have finally shared it publicly, which is why I can speak with you and all of your listeners about it. And I'm ready to launch into helping anybody I can. Really, healthcare professionals or providers that struggle with addiction in any capacity. So that's kind of my main focus right now with my own personal work, in addition to working at the office and getting married and all the other things that just come with life. So that's kind of me in a nutshell right now.
Yeah. So I have some questions I wrote
Yep.
down, but I didn't write this one down, but it just popped in my head. How do you, so you have a lot going on, right?
I'd
Like,
like to think so. Yeah.
yeah, it's an abundant life. How are you balancing it all? And
Mm,
then we'll get into the sobriety part of balancing it with sobriety, but like, how are you balancing it all? Because I know a lot of people, and me included,
mhm,
struggle with kids, with work, with you're doing your own thing too. I
mhm,
know you work out also, you're taking care of
mhm,
yourself. Like,
mhm.
what's, give me one tip or something, like one takeaway that someone can take away from this and like give them hope that they can do it too.
Yeah. So, um, anybody who has ever worked in healthcare knows that healthcare can become your full identity, right? And so it can suck you in and make you feel like that should be your sole focus and purpose in life. And I very much allowed that to happen. I was an active participant in allowing that to happen to myself, and which ultimately I think was a big piece of my downward spiral into active alcoholism because I could not find that balance, right? I felt
Mm,
that everything outside of medicine shouldn't matter. And I was losing my identity. I was losing my true self because everything was focused on medicine. And it wasn't until, if I'm being honest with myself and you, I became sober that I was able to truly work towards a balance. And I'm a firm believer that balance is never stagnant, right? You never find this teeter-totter and we all just hold really still and hope that no one falls off. It's always a little bit of this and then a little bit of this and then a little bit of this and a little bit of this. And so
mm,
I still work very hard to run back and forth, and try to find that balance. But I think for me personally, the biggest piece of the puzzle was accepting that it will never stay right here,
mm,
right? And so there are days that I spend more hours at the office and I spend more hours texting patients and responding to DMs and things like that about active patients that I see, like billable hours through the insurance and things like that, or I have to do CMEs and things like that. And I don't do any self-care and I don't maybe eat very healthy and I don't do all of these things. But then the next day I wake up and the key to the puzzle for me is I don't beat myself up over it,
yes.
right? So I might spend a full 24 hours being Dr. Callie, right? Where I'm seeing patients, I'm doing things, administrative work, whatever. And that's okay because maybe the next day, like Sunday, I might not think about work at all. And I might fill it with things that are just Callie. And so,
Mm,
and I can't beat myself up over it. I have to accept the balance will never stay, and that's okay. And that is how I have found the best way for me to kind of not let it completely go off rails.
yeah. I connect with that so hard because I've been healing, right? Like doing
Right.
healing work for years. I mean, I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2018, and I was trying to heal prior to that. I just wasn't diagnosed properly, so I didn't know the right steps to take.
Right.
Um, my true deep healing and acceptance and forgiveness didn't start until I started my sobriety journey
Hmm.
and to not binge drinking and not drinking regularly and actually getting to know who I am as a person
Hmm.
without that crutch or without
Yeah.
that coping mechanism and
Yeah.
learning to cope on my own. So I totally get that because now you have to feel all the feelings and
Hmm.
experience everything. There's no numbing anymore.
Hmm.
So accepting that and accepting, I love that, accepting that it's never going to be like totally balanced. It's going to be like some days it's going to be better than others and this and that and the other thing.
Hmm.
But being kind to yourself and forgiving yourself is so important, I think. So I guess that would lead into my next question is, did you, when you got sober or when you were coming to get sober, I have a few questions about this, but
Hmm.
did you have to forgive yourself for the past, for the present, for things that you may have done to hurt yourself or unintentionally hurt others? Was there a practice of forgiveness in your journey?
There still is.
Okay.
So it is, as 7+ months sober right now, I know I'm still a baby. I get that,
Hmm.
right? Like that's what AA will tell you, that's what 12 steps will tell you, I'm still a baby. And I will say that was probably the hardest part for me. Yeah, the hardest part is not picking up the drink, right? At
Hmm.
least for anybody who struggles with addiction or substance use disorder, the hardest part is walking away from the drink. But the emotional hardest part was forgiveness, right?
Hmm.
Forgiving myself for the years of decisions I made or did not make because I was drinking and I was too numb or too detached from the situation to be able to make an appropriate decision. Um, Acceptance and forgiveness for all of the people that I've hurt. It's part of the 12 steps is, you have to find forgiveness. You have to ask for forgiveness for all the people, from all the people that you've affected along the way, including yourself, right? And so I'm constantly apologizing to myself and trying to accept forgiveness for decisions I made 5 years ago, but also decisions I'm still making now because I'm trying to learn, what do I do with all this free time?
Hmm.
And I'm trying to fill in. Yes, I'm busy, but I also have time where I'm like, okay, it's Friday night and it's 6:30. I've already eaten dinner. I've already cleaned up the dishes. I've like already worked on my podcast stuff. I'm done with patients for the day. We don't have my fiance's daughter this weekend. Well, we do this weekend, but in my made up story. We might not have his daughter. Okay, so now what do? We sit and stare at each other. And I start to beat myself up about, why don't you know what you like to do? Why don't you know? And it's just another moment of, it's okay, Callie. It's okay that you don't know. You're still figuring this out, and accepting and forgiving myself for not knowing, right? We think we need to have all the answers all the time. And I'm still forgiving other people because as I'm working through my own sobriety, there's many people in my family and my network and my community that are still figuring out what that even means for them as my mom or my sister or my friend or my whomever. Um, we just went through the holiday season. And so there was a lot of drinks there. And I wasn't drinking for the first time at Christmas and at New Year's. And so what does that mean for them? And how are they going to act? And I have a lot of forgiveness working through with that, that even they'll still apologize now, like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that you're not drinking. And it's almost like this moment of guilt where I feel guilty that I'm not drinking because I'm
Yes.
making them feel uncomfortable. And then I'm like, okay, wait, let's all sit here and let's think about this for a moment. So it's this constant for me still forgiveness of myself,
Yeah.
of other people, as we all learn, as we grow, as we work through the old stuff, the new stuff, the stuff that we don't even know what's coming down the road, just forgiveness. And sometimes I can't forgive in that moment. I have to take
Mhm.
some time to work through it, to think through it. And there's things from my past I still haven't forgiven others for, and I haven't forgiven myself for. And so for me, I'm still always working towards forgiveness for sure.
Yeah, I feel the same. And I think it's going to be a forever kind of journey
Hmm.
because we're always going to be growing
Yeah.
and we're always going to be doing things unintentionally that could potentially hurt ourselves or others. But as long as we're, and to me, as long as we're trying our best to be the best versions of ourselves, I think we're doing a
Yeah.
really good job.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't actually talk about this very much on this podcast. I do talk about my drinking, but and I don't know why I feel called to talk about it, but I'm just going to throw it out there. My addiction wasn't I was definitely, I drank too much, right?
Hmm.
But it was not as hard for me to put down a drink as it was to put down cocaine.
Mm.
Like I had a hardcore addiction to that, and it defined so much of me. And
Hmm.
I was always the life of the party because I was
Hmm.
high
Hmm.
and I was so energetic and I was so fun. And obviously the drinking helped. So for me to walk away from that was hard because it defined so much of my identity. So I'm wondering, do you navigate that as well? And then are people still expect, because for me, people still expect, they're proud of me for being sober, but they still expect me to be the life of the party. Like, oh, Callie, what are you doing? You're not like being loud and obnoxious and like dancing and shaking and moving and all this stuff. Um, and it's weird for them. And
Hmm.
it's weird for me. And I'm just wondering if you kind of experience that same like, actions and feelings and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, 100% yes.
Yeah.
I will say, your story resonates with me so much in that I was the fun drinker. I was the fun drunk. I was the life of the party. And that's probably how I got away with it for so long, is that
Hmm.
I was not the one that you had to drag out with no shoes on, covered in vomit. I was not the one that blacked out. I was not the one that was bumming money off of you. I was not the one that you probably from the outside would have thought had a problem.
Hmm.
And I also never had a rock bottom moment, right? I
I was going to
never,
ask you that. So that's interesting
yeah,
that you said that.
yeah. So, and anybody who is in recovery or in addiction or in any stage of the sober curious life, I want to first off give you permission to not have a rock bottom. That's okay because everybody's rock bottom is different. Um,
Hmm.
for me, it was the fear of the rock bottom. I could see myself doing this and I didn't want to crash and burn. There were all these little things like lighting on fire along the way, and I knew the engine was giving out and I lost a wing or whatever, but I did not want the plane to hit the ground. So I did not have a rock bottom. And so I have a little bit of a different story where I feel like people that have this big explosive event that leads to their sobriety oftentimes people in their community or their close circle are like, oh yeah, she got that DUI and got thrown in jail or lost her medical license or whatever. It's great she got sober, right? And so I didn't have that. And so when I announced to my family that I was giving up drinking, I started it as an experiment and kind of played it off as such, and no one understood. And so they very much kept questioning me about it in the sense of like we would go for drinks and normally, old Callie, addict Callie would have had drinks before she went so
Hmm.
that she could only have two or three drinks and it seemed normal. And then she would already show up in a great mood and talkative and dancing and like, let's go do this afterwards because I've got all this energy. And then I would drink more at the next thing. But then it just still wouldn't stop there. I would come home and drink by myself until I would go to bed, right? It's this whole thing, all these pieces that people didn't see. And now first off, in the first couple of months, I wasn't going anywhere or doing anything because I was avoiding the triggers. I knew
Hmm.
if I put myself in a place where alcohol was going to be placed in front of me, I didn't trust myself to be strong enough to say no. So I was rejecting or saying no to many offers to go to dinner, go to drinks, go to this, go to that, go to weddings, I can't tell you in the first 3 months how many things that I wanted or would have gone to that I had to say no to for my sobriety. I had to. So of course I lost friends.
Yep.
But then I think to myself, are they really friends if they only care about the fact that I'm coming to drink with them? Maybe they aren't, you know? I lost, even family members that were like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you didn't come to my son's fifth birthday party. Well, it was at a bar or it was, XYZ. It was a cookout where I know there's going to be a bajillion drinks. I'm not stable enough for that.
Hmm.
So I lost a lot of people in my life and I lost maybe not so much people, but I lost the connections as I knew them with people. Now I still have connections with my family, most of them, but they're different, right? I show up to Christmas and I'm not so loud and obnoxious anymore. When I don't start the day with three mimosas at 9 a.m., by 2
Exactly.
p.m., I am different. I am helping with dishes and staying quiet and doing the things and cleaning up the wrapping paper, as opposed to being the talk of the town. And so I'm often now asked, what's wrong? You're so quiet. What's wrong?
Hmm.
I'm like,
Are you okay?
yeah, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
Hmm.
I'm just not drunk.
Yeah. That's what I always want when people ask me that. Are you okay? Because I'm sober now
Yeah,
and I'm not as, again, loud and obnoxious as I was.
yeah,
Not the life of the party. I want to be like, are you okay? Are
right.
you comfortable with yourself
Right.
enough that,
Yeah,
and this is by no means judging anybody that has any other experience than what we have. And everyone's is different. Every life is different. But I oftentimes think to myself, and I haven't got brave enough to just say it, but are you okay? And are you comfortable enough with yourself to just be with yourself?
Mhm.
Because I think maybe I'm making them a little uncomfortable because I'm okay with being with myself
Right.
without the things that uh, change my personality or whatever, or make it easier to be in social settings.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I resonate with that like
Yeah, I'll
a
tell you
lot.
a quick story. So New Year's, right? It is a drinking holiday, right? That is
I know.
essentially what New Year's is. Like you're not making it to midnight if you're a parent and you're not drinking. I can tell you that right now. So, of course, it's my first New Year sober. My younger sister, whom I love dearly, she hosts a New Year's party every year. And so her husband, my brother-in-law, has many cousins that are younger. And so they are in the stage of their life where they don't have children, and they're partying a lot. No judgment here. Many people can drink and have fun and it
Yeah.
not be a problem, right? And so my sister invited me and she was like, I know you're not drinking, but I'm still having this party. If you would like to join, bring whatever you want to drink and whatever. So I went, me, my fiance and his daughter, his 4 year and a half year old daughter, we went. And these are people that I don't see often, right? They're my brother-in-law's family. So I don't see them often. They probably had no idea that I'm in recovery. And so last year's Callie and this year's New Year's Callie, very different people, right? And so I got asked by multiple people at that party, do you want to drink? And I said, no, I'm okay. I don't drink anymore. And I just, that's the easiest answer. And then they all kind of often people go, oh, are you okay?
Uh-huh.
And I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, I'm not dying and I'm not pregnant. I'm not sick. I'm choosing not to drink anymore. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm sorry. They feel the need to apologize that they're drinking in front of me. And you're right. I want to say to them, are you okay that I'm not drinking? Right.
Hmm.
And again, it's nothing against these people, but it's like, I'm okay. I took a long time to get to the point where I'm okay, but I'm okay. And I have also learned enough about myself that the minute I become not okay, I will leave. And that's exactly what I did. My fiance and I talked about this before we decided to go to this party. I said to him, when I'm ready, I need you to be ready, right? When I look at you and say, I'm ready to go, it's because I'm no longer okay. And so that moment happened about 10:30. Dinner was over, the drinking game started, and none of that is wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. I was getting to the point where I could see the transition in everybody else, right? I was seeing all of them become louder. I was seeing all of them have more fun and for a moment I was beating myself up and I was not becoming okay. And so I
Hmm.
looked at my fiance and I said, it's time to go. And he's like, all right, shoes on, and we were out of there. We said goodbye to my
I
sister.
love
We said
that.
goodbye to everyone. We were out of there. And that's a boundary that I had to learn for myself because I do have to put myself first and keep myself okay. And everyone else should just be okay with that in my brain. I know they're not, and that's okay. And I'm getting there. But yes, when people ask me, are you okay? I do. I want to, maybe I'll start doing that from here on
Are
out. Are
you
you
okay? Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, do you feel, because I feel this way,
Mhm.
because I prioritize my self-care so much. Like, and I feel bad even saying this now, but I prioritize my self-care over my daughter. Not that
Mhm.
I don't feed her when she needs fed or give
Yeah.
her
For life.
take care of
Yeah.
her needs,
Right.
but when I'm doing my self-care routine in the morning or the evening and she's like, "Mommy, snuggle with me," or something like that. I'm like, "Okay, we'll snuggle, but you have to give me space to do this." Or if I'm really into something like journaling or reading, I'm like, "I will snuggle with you in just a few moments. I
Mhm.
need to prioritize my self-care first." Or if she's like, "Can you get me something or whatever?"
Mhm.
Um, and I feel so selfish still to this day. And I've been doing this work for so freaking long.
Mhm.
And when I say it out loud, I feel so selfish because I'm a mom.
Mhm.
Do you ever feel selfish? And if you do, how do you navigate it? And if you don't, how do you navigate it?
Mhm. Yes, but so I very much put self-care at the forefront of my recovery right now. Um, part of that is trying to find this balance, right? Trying to put myself back on top of the pyramid because I can't do all of the other things if I'm not okay, right? Fill your cup
Yes.
first, put your oxygen mask on you first, like all of those
Yes.
things. If I don't do that, I cannot snuggle. I cannot cook her dinner. I cannot show up for my patients. I cannot be
Mhm.
the person I need to be for everybody else. So I know I have to do it. And yes, I have moments where I feel guilty, where I'm like, okay, it's Saturday morning. She wanted me to do this with her today. I have these other things I need to do for myself. I must do my workout today because I didn't do it yesterday because I wasn't feeling well. If I don't do that today, I can't do all of these other things for her. But then I also give myself permission. And I also play the tape back. So in recovery a lot, they talk about playing the tape forward. So if I were to drink right now, what does the tape look like moving forward? I also have to play the tape back. And they say sometimes don't do that because you shouldn't live in the past. But what
Mhm.
I have to remind myself is the self-care, the time and energy I'm putting into self-care now is nothing compared to the time and energy I put into being an addict. Nothing.
I love that.
I might spend 20 minutes doing a workout today by myself. Old, addicted, alcoholic Callie would have spent hours drunk tonight.
Hmm.
And there is nothing worse than trying to give to other people when you are in active, messed up mode.
Hmm.
Right? I can't snuggle. I can't appropriately play Barbie. I might pretend, I might do that, but it's not real. I can't drive her to the store, right? When I'm drinking, I can't go do fun things. I can't be there the way she needs me to be. If I would have drank last night, I would have slept till 11 a.m. this morning. And
Hmm.
so for me, taking 20 minutes to do a workout this morning is nothing compared to me sleeping until 11 a.m. because I was up at 7:30 this morning
Yeah.
because I wasn't drunk last night and I'm not hungover over today. So yes, I feel guilty. I still do. The moment still hits me where I'm like, she really wants me to go do this thing with her right now. Or my fiance really wants me to, do this other thing. Or my mom wants to hang out this weekend, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I have all these things that I want to do for myself so that I can be the best version of myself and so that I can be the best version for you. But you know what? I still have to do those things because if I were drinking right now, I would have wasted the entire weekend anyways. So it's
Exactly.
it's nothing in comparison, and I have to continue to remind myself of that.
I never thought of it like that ever, ever, ever. That I spent because I did spend so much time wasted, like
Hmm.
literally and figuratively wasted,
Hmm.
like wasted so much time. I was wasted, um, and I never played back the tape where I thought, well, I wasted so much time doing that, and if I take 2 hours or 20 minutes or whatever to myself a day, that's such a more productive version of my time because
Yep.
I'm becoming a better self so I can pour into Annalise's cup or I
Yep.
can do something nice for my mom or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Um, or
Yeah.
do something nice for me.
Yeah, Callie a year ago, like me, Callie, a year
Yeah.
ago, I would have drank last night.
Yeah.
100%. It's Friday night
Hmm.
in the middle of debt. We're here in Southwest PA. We are covered in snow. It's freezing cold. I would have drank last night until I passed out at maybe midnight.
Hmm.
I would have slept in until 10, 11 o'clock this morning. I would have gotten on this call with you. Still, there's no time for my fiance in there. There's no time for my stepdaughter in there. My mom's not fitting into that. I would have like begrudgingly done some stuff around the house until about 1 o'clock, and then I would have been super cranky. I would have
Hmm.
forced myself to take a nap to try to feel better. I probably would have woken up at about 3 o'clock and I would have been like, F it, it's a Saturday, it's 3 o'clock, open the bottle. And
Yep.
I would have started drinking at 3 o'clock on a Saturday because I have nothing else to do. Nothing else to do, right? In my busy life, I have nothing else to do, really. And
Hmm.
nothing would have gotten accomplished today then. The laundry wouldn't have gotten done, the dishes wouldn't get done. I definitely wouldn't drive to see my mom once I started drinking. All of these other things, my workout for sure wouldn't have happened. Who knows what type of anti-nutritional things I would have put into my body and put into her body and put in my fiance's body later today. And then I would have been drunk by probably 5:30. If I'm being honest
Hmm.
with you and myself, 5:30, I would have been slurring and silly and who knows what. And then from 5:30, we would have rinsed and repeated the process. I would have been went to bed at 12. And then tomorrow's Sunday,
Same
so we
thing.
do that all over again. Look at
Yeah.
all that wasted time.
Yeah.
I wasn't showing up for anyone but myself. The old Callie was not showing up for anyone but herself. And so
Hmm.
now, as long as I show up for myself sometimes and put myself first, I can show up for everybody else.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. The saying just popped into my head, same shit, different day.
Hmm.
I don't live like that anymore. With the
Mm-mm.
same, even though I do the same things a lot of the days. I
Yeah.
wake up, I do my posting on social media, I do my journaling, I do my meditation, my prayer, my energy work, whatever it is. I do the same routine every day, right? But it's not same shit, different day for me because each day I'm growing at least a little bit
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it feels so good. Like
Hmm.
it feels freeing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you feel that kind of good now. And I imagine you do because in your, I can see it in you. Not that we've had like long conversations before or anything like that, but I've followed you online for a long time and like I can see you're like glowing and
Hmm.
you're confident in yourself and you're very self-aware.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize how good it would feel to live this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you realized how good it would feel to live in this way. Have you heard? Authentic Alignment, the Business Accelerator, is open for enrollment. In this small, tight knit container of like minded female entrepreneurs, you will gain the foundation and growth to start or scale your woman owned business to one of wild abundance. With weekly calls, our specialized healing component, individualized support, and lifetime access, we have co created a container like no other. Feeling the call? We are here and we are waiting for you. Need more one-on-one support? Rise Up, my 6-month life and business mentorship, is accepting applications. This is a container where impact meets income. Have questions? Head to my website, callitony.com/riseup.
Yeah. So, they talk in sobriety a lot about like in the first month or two, you have the pink cloud, right? And the pink cloud is this sometimes elusive moment or days or stretch. Some people have a glimmer where they only have it for a few moments of this like life is really good in sobriety, right? I'm
Mhm.
sober, everything's going well, all of the pieces are coming together, I'm getting my shit together. All of this stuff, life is great. And then the pink cloud kind of goes away, and you're like, okay, now what? Right. And so my
Mhm.
shit's together. Now what? And I actually had this, I was driving home yesterday and I thought to myself, because I keep finding myself in this spiral of like, I'm bored. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why
Yeah.
am I bored? I have a bajillion things to do. Why am I bored? And I had this epiphany moment yesterday where I thought to myself, it's because for so many years I strived and lived in the chaos.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Yes, the chaos of trying to get your shit together and never being
Yes.
able to do so. What do you mean I'm not behind on my bills?
Hmm.
That's coming from a physician, right? And I'm not trying to gloat about money. I shouldn't be behind on my bills,
Hmm.
right? Why was I behind on my bills? Because I was too drunk to keep track of them all and actually sit down and pay them.
Hmm.
The money was there. I just didn't do it, right? And so I would waste time on the phone calling to get my auto insurance reinstated because I forgot to pay the bill for 3 months in a row because I was too drunk to do it, right? Of course, I have more time now when I don't have to do that. I have all this other time because I'm not living in the chaos of alcoholism and the chaos of everything else. Don't get me wrong, my life can still be chaotic. I drank an
Of
entire
course.
cup of spoiled milk the other day because I just didn't pay attention to it, right? Like
Yeah.
things still happen. But I will say, like living in this life day to day now, I had that pink cloud moment. I had the moment where I was like, is this it? Is this really all there is to sobriety? Like, meh, it's kind of boring. Uh, but I can say for certain I am happy. I might
Yeah.
be bored sometimes, but I am truly, genuinely happy. I am truly, genuinely proud. I am truly, genuinely hopeful for the
Mhm.
future and what might come later today, what might come tomorrow, what might come next year, because I know I'm not always trying to dig out of the chaos. And so I very much am loving this life, even on days that suck, right?
Yeah.
Even on the days where, like you said at the start of this call, you're feeling some grief this morning, right? But you're happy,
Yeah.
right? I might be craving, I might be having a moment, but I'm still happy. I'm still
Mhm.
so much happier in sobriety than I am not.
Yeah. I feel a sense of peace that I've
Mm,
never felt
mhm.
before.
Yeah.
But again, connect with that so much, the chaos. I lived in chaos my entire adult life.
Yeah.
I lived in chaos. And when I wasn't living in so much chaos anymore, I was also bored. And I was like, is this all there is?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
what do I do? Like, I'm just good. And I didn't know how to be okay in the chaos. And then also with that, you said earlier about having friends that kind of like, are they really your friends? I had a lot of friends that were still living in chaos, and I had to set a boundary with those friendships and say, like, no, I don't receive that,
Right.
whatever it might be. Not maybe it was drinking, or maybe it was just the vicious cycle that they were in, or
Mhm.
just living in whatever way they were living in, but it wasn't aligning with the way that I was living and wanted to continue to live and improve in. And that was hard. And speaking of grief, there was a grieving process to that, and there still is a grieving process to that.
Yep.
Um, so like, and I've interviewed I don't know if you know Amanda Ernesty. I think is she a I don't know. But anyway, Amanda Laura was her name. She danced at Kids and Company too.
I feel
Um,
like I feel like I know people's faces,
yeah,
but I'm not great at names and probably just because I know so many names. But
of course. Um, you do see probably hundreds of people a day.
mhm.
But she's been my best friend since I was 12 and she was 13, and she still drinks. She doesn't have a problem like I had a problem. But she still drinks, and we're still best friends. But there was a grieving part to our friendship where we didn't go out and get drunk anymore.
Right.
Like we didn't go out and do the things we used to do and be the life of the party and dance on the tables and do all the things and take the shots with the guys and like
Right.
was a bro or whatever.
Mhm.
So there, and I almost thought, is she still gonna love me?
Mm.
And we had an episode and we talked about it, and she was like, Callie, you were hurting yourself and that was hurting me, and I just wanted you to be okay. But
Mhm.
I was scared I was going to lose that love because we didn't have that bond that we had for so long. But now what we have is so much deeper and stronger than that.
Mhm.
Um, and she's never been like, it's so cool. And I don't mean to talk so much, but she respects that I don't drink, and she doesn't do the are you okay thing that we talked about
Mm.
earlier. She's
Right.
just like, well, I'm gonna have a drink. And I'm like, that's cool. And I'm like, I'm not. Oh, that's cool. And
Yeah.
that's it. And
Yeah.
it's fine. Like I'll get a nice tea, you get a beer, we're cool.
Right.
And it's just a really weird experience, but it's a really great experience to still have that. But I think boundaries were really important to set for myself above everybody else, even. Like I had to set boundaries with myself. I don't
Hmm.
know if you experienced that with setting boundaries with yourself or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't think of an example right now, but I want to touch on your best friend story because I think it's important that not only is cutting out your own chaos life-changing, right? And it's
Mhm.
life-changing for your relationships with people. I think cutting out other people's chaos in your life, so that setting that boundary also can dramatically change, right? So um, I have a similar but also very different story in that my best friend, um, we did not drink together. That was just not something we did. We bonded over her children and we bonded over other things that were going on, and we'd hang out, and there was actually no drinking, minimal drinking involved. Um, we chose to meet at Panera for lunch or whatever, and those types of things. Um, but she, in her own way, is dealing with chaos. It's not addiction, and I won't share her story because I don't have permission to, but she's dealing with a lot of chaos and was coming to me for help. And I very much would give my opinion and give her guidance. And she as an adult, continue to participate in the chaos. And so I had to say to her, I am going to set a boundary that I am not going to actively participate in your chaos. And that is not to cut you out of my life. That is an attempt to keep you in my life. I would
Mhm.
like to keep you in my life, and I cannot participate in this chaos. So I am here for you and I am here for your children, but I am not here for this chaos situation. And so if and when you're ready to accept that, I'm here. And so that was hard. Hard,
Super
hard,
hard.
hard, because what it did was it changed everything about our relationship. There was a big period of, you know, there's no right or wrong. She took it as I didn't want to be her friend anymore
Mhm.
because I wasn't having this unconditional support of her life and her choices, right? I support you to make your choices, but I can't participate in them, right? And this is a me thing, not a you thing. And so we went for a while where we didn't talk. We didn't talk for months. And I would grieve that. I would want to
Yeah.
text her when something fun happened. I would want to ask her how things are going and changing. And even to this day, she posted pictures this morning of her child's birthday party last weekend. I wasn't invited. I wasn't there, right? And I had this moment this morning on my couch where I was like, this sucks, right?
Mhm.
Like, because I had to set this boundary, now our relationship is very, very different, but I cannot participate in the chaos. I just can't, I can't do it for my own sobriety. And as selfish as that sounds, that's where I have to be. And so I have to be okay with that. I have to accept this is the choice I made
Yeah.
and allow myself to grieve over it, but accept that this is where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to, the biggest thing I've learned in my healing journey in general is I have to prioritize myself and my needs first.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because if not, I cannot live.
Mhm.
Like I went so long without wanting to be alive,
Uh-huh.
and I don't experience that daily anymore. I'll have a fleeting thought. I had one in July, a fleeting thought, which was very different because before it would last for days, weeks, months at a time. Um, but to go from wanting to die daily to wanting to live daily, I'll never go back. And
Mhm.
if I need to prioritize myself first, and I know that's what makes it so I actually want to be alive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think those are some really valid thoughts and feelings, right? And I
Yeah.
think what many people who don't struggle with any sort of addiction or substance use disorders at all is that they don't realize in our active use how much we were prioritizing that substance, right?
Yeah.
So we can over and over again beat ourselves up or play the guilt and shame game about, yeah, we're prioritizing ourself and our recovery. But what you didn't see was me prioritizing alcohol over you every time.
Hmm.
Every time. They didn't see it, they didn't know it, but I was doing it.
Hmm.
100%.
And it
100%.
was acceptable.
Yeah, it was acceptable. It is still socially acceptable for people to do so, or at least with alcohol. And I just, that's another thing that I try not to feel guilty about is prioritizing myself and my recovery over everything else, because if not, my addiction will.
Hmm.
Period.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, Going back to how you had to set a boundary with your friend and just touching again on Amanda, and I'll have to text her after this and tell her I talked about her in my episode today. Which she won't mind, but she never like came out and firmly set a boundary with me because I kind of disappeared from the friendship for a while when I was really bad on drug use. Because I didn't want to bring chaos to her life
Mm,
and I didn't want to bring myself like that around her kids.
mhm,
Um, but she silently set a little bit of a boundary with me,
mhm,
and we weren't texting as much, and we weren't hanging out as much when I lived up in Pennsylvania. And we would still talk, but it wasn't the same way. And I knew that was her way of setting, like, I can't receive what you're doing right now, and I can't watch you hurt yourself, and
mhm.
I can't watch you have this chaos in your life because it's hurting me to see you hurt, and it's hurting my peace in
Right.
my own life. And I never resented her for that. I was never angry about it. I
Mhm.
knew it was the right thing to do. At least I had that kind of, when I was in active addiction, self-awareness that I knew it was best for her and it was
Right.
okay because I love her so much. I wanted her to be okay.
Mhm.
Um, so I wanted to share that because I kind of experienced, it was like a reverse role of what you had to set with your friend. I
Right.
had a boundary set on me. Um, but I knew it was for the best for both of us, honestly.
Mhm.
Because if I ever saw her bring herself down the way I was bringing myself down, I would have never forgiven I don't know that I could have ever forgiven myself
Mhm.
if I ever experienced that.
Mhm.
Um, so switching gears a little bit, um, I want to know if you want to talk about it a little bit about because I love watching you on social media. I love watching your reels.
Thanks.
Um, I want to know a little bit about what you're doing there
Mhm.
because you share so much, like, I don't want to say valid, I want to say valuable. That's the word I was looking for.
Mhm.
Information. And I want people to go follow you because if they have kids, if they need any kind of like tips and tricks about health in any way, they need to go follow you because you're sharing so much valuable information. So can you
Thanks.
tell me a little bit about what you're sharing on your platform?
Sure. So I actually have two Instagram accounts, just because to me, there's two facets of who I am right now, right? And so I have one Instagram account, it's called the Sober Doc, and I actually started it as an anonymous, faceless Instagram page to chronicle my self recovery journey.
Mhm.
And so until I knew it was safe to come out in the medical community about my sobriety, because in case you were wondering, and it's a whole story, it is not always safe to discuss mental health and addiction and recovery in the medical community because you are at risk for losing your whole career. And so I wanted a way that I could vent, that I could share without anyone knowing who I was. So I started it about a month into my recovery. And so you can go back and you can kind of see like where my headspace was and what I was kind of sharing at that time and what I was going through. And then at the 6 month mark, I announced who I was, right, on this page. And so currently the page serves as a story and journey sharing platform. My hope for that platform over time is to provide support and guidance to other healthcare providers that are undergoing addiction and or in recovery and or trying to get there and act as a resource for them, right? Because addiction is isolating,
Mhm.
recovery is isolating, healthcare can be isolating, and you put all of those together and you feel like you are a rock alone on an island and the water is about to come and wash you away. And so I want to utilize that platform for that purpose. My other platform, my other half of who I am is Dr. Callie, right? And so that is my original Instagram handle is Dr. Callie. And so it started out years and years and years ago just as a personal page, right? I was just sharing what I was doing. And I was in med school and then, for a while I was a Beachbody coach because I was trying to make money when I was a broke med student and I
Mhm.
was trying to find my own health journey and all of that. Um, and then it transformed into now I'm this full-fledged doctor who's in charge of like a lot of people's lives. And I have a lot of knowledge and a lot of things that many I take for granted that other people don't know. And coming from a smaller community in Southwest PA, right, where everyone knows everyone,
Mhm.
you go to a gathering and you get asked if you know the other Callie that lives in the next school. Um, I have a lot of people message me on social media for medical advice, a
Mhm.
lot. And many of them are not my patients for a whole host of reasons, whether it's insurances, whether it's location, whatever, personal choice. Um, I medical legally cannot give personal medical advice to anybody who is not my patient. So
Okay.
what that means is if your child, your daughter, who is not my patient, obviously, which is fine because she doesn't even live anywhere near me,
Yeah.
um, if she came down with a rash and you texted me or messaged me on Facebook and said, Annalise has a rash, here's a picture of it, started like this, what do you think I should do? I cannot answer that question legally.
Hmm.
I cannot. My heart wants to, like the giver, the people pleaser, the all of that person, like friend to friend, that kind of thing. But I cannot. I can
Yeah.
lose my medical license, and I don't think people understand that. So it got to the point where I was getting so many messages and requests and comments and questions. Like I can't go to Walmart without someone stopping me and asking me a medical question, right? Because they know me, or they know my sister, or they know my dad, or they knew me when we were little, and they feel comfortable doing so, which I appreciate that, but I can't do it. So I started posting, sorry, this is the long story.
No, take your time.
Started posting reels and other snippets of ways to answer these questions in an educational way so that I may reach more people who have a similar question. So, for instance, it's sick season, right? Every kid on the planet is sick or has been sick in the last month, or they will be sick in the next month if they haven't been already. And it's very common things. It's the flu, it's COVID, it's the stomach bug, it's eczema because the weather's crappy. It's all of these things. And so I'm getting multiple messages about what to do if your kid is throwing up, or multiple messages about what, like my kid got sent home with a fever. Do you think I need to go get them flu tested? I can't answer that. But what I can do is post a reel about when we need to be worried about fevers in kids, right? And
Okay.
so not only am I helping the people that are asking very specific questions, I'm helping anyone who didn't know they had that question, right?
Yeah.
And so my goal is to educate so that parents feel more empowered, right? To one, keep asking the questions. I am all about asking the questions, whether it's to your physician or to whomever. Educating yourself, right? The internet exists, use it. When people are like, "Oh, well, I use Dr. Google, I'm sorry." I'm like, "Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry that you did that. You're advocating for yourself and for your children, and you learned something, and you might teach me something for all I know." Um, and then just another way for me to get my knowledge out there, because I can only see so many patients in a day, right? Like
Hmm.
I can only fill my schedule with so many patients, and there's still how many patients out there that need help. And so it's a way for me to kind of give back to the community. There is no financial benefit or gain for anything that I am posting on my social media. It is purely me just answering questions that I hear over and over and over and over and over and over and over,
Hmm.
and trying to reach the masses. So I love when people send me questions. Just know I cannot answer personal questions, but I will try to address your question in some capacity if I can.
Yeah. I had no idea about that,
Mhm.
that you could get in a lot of, lack of a better word, shit
Yeah.
for answering questions. I always try to respect, because I started out as a personal trainer, right? So
Mhm.
people always ask me fitness questions,
Yeah.
and they weren't clients, and I want to answer them. That's kind of where my social media journey started too. I want to answer them, but also at the same time, I have to respect my time boundaries of answering hundreds of questions a day if you're not a client, not to be
Mm.
rude or anything, but it's just a fact.
Yeah.
Um, so I didn't have that problem where it was I would never lose anything, but mine kind of started out as that, and I would just answer questions of the general,
Mhm.
like, here's this.
Mhm.
But yeah, I had no idea about that. That's crazy. But
Yeah.
I love what you're posting because
Thank
it's
you.
so, like, in real time. You're
Yeah.
posting about real time issues that are happening.
Yeah.
And I will share those links in the show notes to both of your Instagrams so people can go and follow you on both platforms.
Yeah.
Um, so a question that I do ask everybody,
Mhm.
unless I forget, which I do sometimes forget, but if you were, and I'm going to ask it differently with you.
Okay.
If you were at a table
Mhm.
with three versions of yourself, I'm going to get really specific.
Mhm.
Your 6-year-old self,
Mhm.
yourself right before you got sober, and yourself now. What would yourself now say to your 6-year-old self and then the person you were right before you got sober?
Mhm. It's funny that you ask it like that. So my favorite author of all time is Elizabeth Gilbert, and I went to a workshop that she hosted in Toronto this past fall, and she did a similar exercise. So I like this. She actually had you close your eyes, take your non-dominant hand, and you had 30 seconds to draw a version of your small child. And it actually came out pretty cool. And then like you were supposed to take that piece of paper and fold it up and like put it in your pocket. And you were supposed to envision yourself all weekend taking care of that little mini version of yourself. And
I
yeah,
love
I know,
that.
right? So, like, what would you tell that little mini version that's imperfect because you scribbled it with your non-dominant hand with your eyes closed? How would you protect her, whether that's your small internal self now or your small little baby child self or whatever? Um, so, anywho, little Callie, like 6-year-old Callie, would have had no idea. She would have had no idea the life that was coming. I knew since I was 6 years old I wanted to be a doctor. My mom actually has a video of it. You know those like signs kids hold up, like my first day of kindergarten when I grow up, I want to be. Mine was doctor. Okay. So like that has always been what I was going to do with my life. And so I was going to be this amazing doctor that helped everybody. I used to say I wanted to take care of all the people from diapers to diapers, the babies, the
Mhm.
whole way to the old people. That changed as I got older, as you know, now that I'm really taking care of kids. But um, I would have never known how hard it was going to be, right? Like
Mhm.
6-year-old Callie was going to be a doctor and you couldn't tell her nothing. That was just what I was going to do. And I am, right? Like I am
Yeah.
a doctor. I didn't know it was going to be hard, right?
Mhm.
I had no capacity of that. And so I think if I could tell my 6-year-old self, I would have started by introducing the hardships, right? I would have
Mhm.
started by saying, you're going to face challenges, but it's going to be okay, right? Like it's going to be hard, but you're strong and you're going to do this, which is a little bit different than what I would tell Callie the day before I got sober, right? That Callie already knew hard.
Mhm.
She knew what it was like to go through medical school, to go through residency, to get a divorce, to be an active alcoholic and trying to claw her way out, right? She knew the hard. I would tell that Callie that you've got yourself, right?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, no matter what's happening after all the hard, you are the one who is going to save yourself, right? And so trust the process and let that happen. So two very different versions of myself that if I could go back, that's what I would say to myself. And I did. I saved myself. Not to say there's nothing, I'm very spiritual and religious. God was there too.
Mhm.
I didn't do it by myself, but and AA and all of the community of recovery. But at the end of the day, when I'm sitting alone, the only thing I can rely on is myself to save myself.
Mhm.
And that's what I would say.
I try to tell that to people in my life that lean on me to save them. And
Hmm.
I'm not saying that egotistically. I'm not saying I think I'm this great like healer or anything like that.
Hmm.
But because I have done a lot of healing work, I have people in my life that look to me as an outlet to be out of where they're at now.
Hmm.
And they want to get better. Like, I'm thinking of a particular relationship in, like, specifically. They want to get better for me. You can only get better for yourself.
Hmm.
You can't get sober for anyone else. You can't do anything. You can't heal. You can't do anything for anyone else. You have to do it for yourself because you are the only, like you said, constant in your life every single day that you have to wake up and look at the mirror every day for the rest of your life. Everything else is not unconditional. You are the only unconditional thing that you have in your life every single day that you have to actually live with 24 hours a day.
Yep.
And if you want somebody else to save you or you want to get better for somebody else, it is not going to stick. And I don't know how to express that to some people in any better of a way,
Hmm.
but I just want them to know that they're worth it.
Hmm.
Like, I know you think I'm worth it, you to get better for me, but you're so much more worth it.
Hmm.
Your journey, your life is so worth it for you just to get better for you.
Yep.
And then we'll see how our relationship develops down the road, but like, do it for yourself because that's the only way it's going to stick.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. So if we want to give an example for people that has nothing to do with recovery, I post selfies often of myself doing workouts or my post-workout selfies, sweaty selfie, right? And that's something I do for myself to keep myself accountable. And I think I'm kind of badass. I'm just
Yeah,
being
you
honest,
are.
right? Like I think I'm pretty cool. And my sobriety has led me to lose a bunch of weight because, well, I'm not drinking a bajillion calories every single day.
Yeah.
Anywho, so now I'm really feeling myself. But I have had a multitude of people message me and say, "How do you do it?" Right? How do you wake up every day or find time every day, almost every day, to exercise? I just can't do it. I need you to keep me accountable.
Mm,
And I respond with, I can text you every day. I can call you every day. I can FaceTime you. I can try to meet you at the gym. But until you choose to answer the call, answer the text, wake up, get your butt to the gym, until you decide for yourself, you're ready to do it and willing to put in the energy and effort to do it, I can't do it for you. I
mhm,
cannot magically grab your hands and force you to run on the treadmill. I cannot grip my hands around you to pick up the dumbbells. I can't do it for you, right? Like you have to be ready. You have to put in the work. I can only support you, right?
mhm,
It can't be me. I'm 100% about texting you every day if that's what you want, but your choice is that you can respond to the text or not, right? So
mhm.
until you're ready, it's got to be you. You're the only one that can do it for yourself.
You're the only one that can save you.
Hmm.
I love that you said that. Like, you're the only one that can save you. That might be the title of this episode, honestly, because I love that so much and it's so true. Um, so I think my last question would be, and it's another one that I ask everybody.
Hmm.
I just have two more questions, but um, what is, and I say it in two different ways because it resonates, the term success resonates with some people and the term sweet spot resonates with some people. And then they have some people have two definitions, two
Hmm.
different definitions for both terms. So my question to you would be, what is your definition of success
Hmm.
or your sweet spot and or both?
Hmm. So success for me is doing the thing or things that bring you joy,
Yes.
right? I don't care if it makes you money. I don't care if it makes you popular. And I understand money is a sore subject for many people, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people just don't have money laying around, especially in this economy. So like oftentimes people want to be successful for money. I can tell you the money doesn't matter if you're not happy,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, so whatever it is that you do every day, if it doesn't bring you joy, to me, that is not success. So that is my definition of success. And I can say that with certainty because I took a pay cut to change jobs because my job was not making me happy. And I do the same job, right? I'm
Mm.
still a pediatrician. I just changed where and with whom I am doing it. I took a pay cut to do so because I was not happy. And so some people may see that as a back step in success. I don't because I actually enjoy waking up and going to work every day now. I actually come home in a good mood, right? And so to me, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm still seeing kids, I'm treating kids. It's the same thing. But to me, that's successful
Yeah.
because I had a successful day at helping others, which brings me joy.
Yeah.
That is my definition of success. For me personally, finding that sweet spot is being authentic. If you are
Cool.
not doing what you love in a way that is true to who you are never going to find success. If you are trying to be somebody or do something that you are not, you're not going to be happy, and then therefore
Yeah.
you are not going to be successful. I follow many medfluencers, which are doctors who are influencing on Instagram, right?
Mm.
And many of them are burnt out over it, and many of them find it cumbersome and they're hating it and all of the things. They're making money doing it. So a lot of them get paid partnerships with, the Figs brand scrubs or medical equipment or pharma or whatever. They get paid to do these things and they hate it because they are having to post or they're choosing to post things that aren't authentic to who they are. They're doing these stage setups where they've got like a ring camera and they get their makeup done before they go on and they put on a business suit. Have you ever seen a doctor in a full business suit see a patient? No.
Mm-mm.
Or they like put this whole dialogue into what they're going to say, and then they have all this editing software and they got all these fancy things going on. But if you actually met them in real life, that's just not who they are. I didn't want to be that person, right? And so I knew that would make posting on social media not enjoy, like bring me zero enjoyment at all. I show up on social media every single day the same way you see me right now.
Hmm.
Callie knows this because she saw me before my hair started to dry. My hair was soaking wet. I have zero makeup on my face. I am in a t-shirt that I've had since high school that actually has, if I pulled it up right now, it has a hole down here. Okay, that is who I
That's
am.
funny. Yeah.
And while my room behind me may look really, really nice, if you actually could see the floor around me, it is a hot mess express because that is who I am. And I talk on my stuff on Instagram. I talk to my patients. I talk to everybody the same. It is casual because I don't know how to be fancy because that's just
Mhm.
not who I am. Right. And so if I am not acting in alignment with who I am as a person, I will not be happy. And if I am not happy doing what I am doing, I am not successful. So that is my sweet spot, and I'm going to keep riding it as long as I can, because I don't know any other way to be.
I love that so much. And it popped up another question about that I'm gonna ask now. But with the authenticity piece,
Mhm.
two things I'm gonna ask.
Mhm.
How much freer do you feel now? Were you always authentic? That would be my first question. When you were drinking, were you authentic?
No, I thought I was, but no.
Yeah, exactly. So, how much freer do you feel now that you are authentic? That would be, I'll just put the two questions together. How much freer are you now that you're authentic? Because I know with me, I feel like I can breathe.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, when I was in active addiction, I thought alcohol was allowing me to relax and be myself.
Mhm.
And what it really was it was allowing me to pretend to be somebody I wasn't.
Mhm.
And it was giving me permission in a way to act or be somebody I thought I should be, right? And I was unable to, because of the neurotoxicity of the brain, unable to actually just be me, right? Like sometimes I don't want to be the life of the party, and sometimes I don't want to actually go to that thing or do this thing or whatever. Um, Now in sobriety, I am lucid enough to make that choice, and I'm not pretending. I'm no longer pretending. There's nothing about me that is not who I don't actively choose every day to be. And that is a free thing to know that I have autonomy over my life again.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I love that. Um, so good. So much goodness. I so appreciate you joining me today because this was like, this honestly, I love all my podcast episodes. I don't know if it's because besides Amanda, I've not interviewed someone that I have known in some capacity for my whole life. And we have similar but different journeys. Um, Couple things. I'm so proud of you for
Thank you.
being so brave. I honor your journey and I truly thank you for being here with me today because I know this is going to reach the people that it's meant to reach.
Mhm.
So thank you. The last question I would ask, is there
Mhm.
anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Should. Should's a fun word. We
It
should.
is, isn't it?
Yeah. There's nothing we should do. It's just what the
This is
universe says
true.
we should do. No, I think we touched on some really important topics today, but I think between the work that you're doing, which I think is fantastic, by the way, I
Thank
have
you.
gotten a chance to say that and the work that I do both in my personal and my professional life, we could have a bajillion more topics, right? We could veer away from
We really
sobriety
could.
completely and talk about physical health if we wanted, and
Hmm.
mental health is, tied into all of it. But and so I'm happy to do that at any time should we want to reconnect and do it again and go that direction. But I think we did really well today.
Yeah, that makes me so happy. So I told you at the beginning of the episode, and I talked a little bit on the last episode because my daughter came out when
Mhm.
I was on the episode, and I was like, I'm so sorry, my daughter's crawling under the table right now. But my mom and daughter are trapped in the bedroom right now, and I don't want to keep them in there too much longer. But I would love to reconnect and talk about because I wrote down other notes that I wanted to ask.
Mhm.
But don't want to trap them in the bedroom too long, honestly.
Yeah,
So I would love to reconnect for another episode if you were open to that. That would be
sure.
super
Yeah.
cool. Um, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. And thank you guys for joining me for another episode of the Alignment Blueprint. We will see you next time. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Alignment Blueprint. I hope you enjoyed and got at least one takeaway. Liking what you hear? Subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you listen from. And don't forget to join me over on Instagram at CallieTony_. That's at CALLITONY_. Talk soon.